from $300 in your pocket, and within a year time, you are dealing with CEOs and working with them, helping them financial strategies, and as you said, what can you do for the future of the company? What can you offer to them, to a CEO, to a CFO? But yours is something unique.
Broad type of information, then the CEO will just dismiss you because what he's looking for is a thinking partner. Then you'll have a better outcome or elite outcome. When you have the elite outcome, then it will go back to building more trust, and then it will just keep circling.
Welcome to T.O.P, Truth Only Productions, another episode. We have another important guest, another VIP, I should say, Jason Lopez. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. Akman. I'm very, very grateful and happy to be here today.
Thank you. So Jason, one of the reasons actually I wanted to have you in our podcast, and thank you for accepting it, is your very inspiring life story. And we're gonna have topics about your life story, which is connected to success, ways of succeeding in business or in your field. And then we're gonna talk about how ethical practices helped you to succeed, how it paid off for you. What's inspiring and shocking is that in a very short time, especially after moving to Singapore, which you're gonna, I think, explain to the audience, within a year or so, from the bottom, you reach to the top and start working with the executives, CEOs, very high-level people. And I find that very interesting because yes, everybody has story, their success story. But in yours, like the speed of you coming from the bottom to going up that so fast, I never heard anything like that. So I think that's one of the things that I'm very interested to hear from you. So tell us your story, Jason.
Sure. Well, thanks for the introduction, first of all. And just to introduce myself first, my name is Jason Lopez. I'm a private advisor and executive business executive based in Dubai. And my career is built on a foundation of elite athletic discipline. At the young age of 7, I started playing competitive volleyball back in the Philippines, and then subsequently received a full athletic scholarships from high school all the way through university. And after which I transitioned to a new sport, which is ultimate frisbee, where I went on to become the first Filipino to win a gold medal in any ultimate frisbee world championships.
First
Filipino. Me and my best friend basically were the two first Filipinos to win that. Yes. And 18 years ago, I moved to Singapore to further my career, gain international exposure. And about a year ago, exactly about a year ago now, I relocated here to Dubai to implement what I have learned in Singapore. Dubai is a very exciting place, a lot of opportunities. And today, I operate primarily behind the scenes and helping leaders to navigate the architecture of trust and influence.
You said you went to Singapore, and you said you are sitting at Orchard Road and then thinking like, okay, I have this much money in my pocket, so what do I do now? Right? I came to this country, so what's next? How do I make money, right? Tell me, because this is the part of your story where you, within a year time, from $300 in your pocket, and within a year time, you are dealing with CEOs and working with them, helping them, not just working as like an employee, But anyway, I let you tell your story because that's the interesting part.
Sure. So going back first, when I left the Philippines, the reason why I've decided to leave is because I love my country, but unfortunately, it will be very difficult to achieve what I wanted in terms of global exposure. And at that time, I had no money because it's very difficult to earn money in the Philippines. And so I borrowed $300 from my friend, and then another friend booked my flight to Singapore. And I was already playing Ultimate Frisbee at that time, so at least I had some connections in Singapore, right? And when I landed in Singapore, just like what you experienced, I have $300. I was trying to look for a job. I left a life that is very, very fun in the Philippines. And then all of a sudden, I'm in a foreign country. At that time, I could hardly speak English in straight for one paragraph. I have to think because it's not my first language, right? So when I landed there, I took the metro and I wanted to meet my friend. And I stayed. First of all, I was looking at the machine. I think I was there for 30 minutes and I was thinking to myself, what have I done? Why am I in this country? What am I gonna do here? And then finally, I rode the train. I got out of the station, Orchard Road. I stood there for, I don't know, forever, right? Because I was like, what am I gonna do? Where am I gonna go? There's no map at that time. And it will tell us our age, but there's no map. It's only pretty much your Nokia phone. Yes, no smartphones, right? And because of that, the challenges, and then also it's good that having a discipline, the sports discipline of grit, that you have to keep pushing through, because otherwise, if I stood there forever, then I wouldn't be here right in front of you right now, right? So my career, the first job that I got in Singapore, and I had this 3 days after my tourist visa was expired. So it was very, very stressful, right? And so my first job was selling a exhibition booth. I did that for 10 months. I had a lot of failures because obviously speaking with people with different accents, it's a high velocity type of ecosystem. The market, it moves very, very fast. And I did it for 10 months. And I found my next job, which I think really defined who I am right now in terms of speaking and, access to C-suites and be able to build relationships and then shape the influence. My job was for an event company, and my specific role was to sell to sponsors. Sounds easy, right? But the difference is we can only sell directly to C-suites. We are not allowed to sell to managers, to gatekeepers, or anybody else.
For those audiences that doesn't know what C-suite is, can you explain that first?
So it's basically all your CEOs, your senior leadership in the company, and ultimately is the key decision maker.
Yeah,
for
CEOs, CFOs, whatnot, right?
Correct. Yeah, and it was very interesting because a lot of questions in my mind when I first took the job. Number one is I could hardly speak English at that time. Then I have to sell to a CEO, a global CEO or from Fortune 500 CEO, directly over the phone, ask this very intelligent person to pay me $40,000 without seeing my face, only on the phone.
So that's cold calling.
Calling, wow. Yes.
You're talking about cold calling a CEO. Like, yes. First of all, how do you even reach these people, right? You cannot reach them it's not easy in the first place. And even if you reach them, I think you would end up with his or her secretary or something. So how did you do that?
Yeah, so it's a very good question, and a lot of people don't realize this, right? Because a lot of people, they try to sell to manager level, and you're right. The question of, first of all, how do you reach them? So you need to be creative in terms of finding their mobile number, because there's no way you can pitch them if you do not have their mobile phone or direct number. Right? So there are a lot of ways.
How do you get their phone number?
So there are a lot of ways to do it. I'll give you one example. For example, you can call a switchboard and dial any number, like a direct line. If someone picks up, I just say, "Hey, Dr. Ackman, it's me, Jason. How are you doing? Oh, by the way," so the other person would say, sorry, I thought this number. Give me his direct line, please." And most often, sometimes you'll get the number if you, like I said, it's a creative way of doing it.
So you're saying that you act as if you used to talk with that CEO, it's just that you end up dialing the wrong number. So the operator thinks, okay, he actually knows the number, just miscalled this time.
Yes.
So this is someone who actually has access to the CEO, but he forgot the number or something. So you kind of basically making them think that way. Is that true?
So let's just call this white lies, because you can say, I have his business card somewhere, I lost it, or I was supposed to meet him today, I lost his number, can you provide that to me? But the rule of thumb is you don't call the switchboard, or you don't call, number one is the gatekeeper, and you don't call the switchboard where the CEO resides.
Awesome. Very nice. So, we are talking about ethical business practices, so I don't know where to put this one.
Yes. So that's why there's a disclaimer of white lies,
Yes.
how to be creative in getting the number.
Right. So when you reach these CEOs, high-level executives, what's their reaction? Are they asking, how did you get my phone number?
Yeah, so that's the next thing that you need to learn if you're doing the sales call, right? I call it the 10-second rule. So you have about 10 seconds to create your impact statement. Within that 10 seconds, the person on the other line will decide, is this a right call that I need to take? Or should just immediately say, I'm in a meeting, call me back. So there are a lot of ways of doing it. Number one is the preparation. You must conduct a series of research before calling the CEO. Understand exactly what are their, let's say, challenges at the moment, or if you see any news that you can use within that 10 seconds. So that's one, preparation. Second is the quality of your voice. Have you ever received a call, let's say from a junior salesperson, and you know it's a salesperson? Your initial reaction is probably, sorry, call me later. If the voice is, hi, Dr. Ackman, this is Jason. But if the voice has authority to it, hi, Dr. Ackman, it's Jason, how are you doing? I'm sure you will stop for a while and listen, right?
I agree. Yeah. What is it that they find it very interesting that so that's why they continue to talk to you?
Okay, so after the impact statement, usually the CEO will decide if the call will go on for another minute, right? So your next statement in terms of the value that we are offering, and one thing we need to understand, you're a CEO yourself, I've done it before, and it's a very complex role because you're constantly under pressure. You're always thinking of a lot of things that's happening, right? Now, if someone is going to call you and cannot compress that information in a very short period of time, you'll immediately think it's a waste of your time. So what you need to do is the same thing. Keywords. What are these? Why am I calling this person? if you're calling this person thinking just in a broad type of information, then the CEO will just dismiss you, because what he's looking for is a thinking partner, right? Someone who can perhaps help him de-risk his next move, or someone who can provide more value for the future, right? Because we all try to provide and we all think it's the right solution. Yes, we may be right, but how we package that, the delivery, that is the game changer.
What would you say your success rate was reaching the executive management level? Let's say 10 out of how many?
When I first started, it's pretty much a zero because when I remember my first call, and this is very, very interesting, I can't remember this. So I called someone, Australia, and said, John Smith. And when I heard the voice, I kid you not, I put it down, and then I almost resigned, right, from my job because I was thinking, this is not for me. It's too difficult. But then you keep refining, and the same because of my foundation in athletic discipline, right? So what you do when you're playing sports, if things are not doing well, then you re-strategize, right? You adjust, and then you look at ways on how you can improve things. And that's what exactly I've done. Constantly, I'm always thinking, okay, what has gone wrong? How can I improve this? Let's say I did a call and the CEO immediately said, oh, I'm not interested. So that means, okay, there's something wrong with that pitch, right? So you just need to keep evolving, and every pitch, every outreach is different. Although the common denominator is always, what is the value that you want to relate to the CEO, and how are you able to compress that in a tiny, call it molecule, but the impact when it explodes is much heavier the moment the CEO read it.
Here you are, you're in a survival mode.
Yes.
And survival mode, you have only $300, and so your mental state is and mode is to think, how can I survive? You jumped up from that to understand high level executive mindset. I mean, it's a major contrast, right? From survival mode to very high level of mindset of thinking strategies, financial strategies. And as you said, what can you do for the future of the company? What can you offer to them, to a CEO, to a CFO, whatnot, right? That's a major leap. I never heard that before. I mean, I heard a lot of success stories. People eventually, gradually, after 5 years, after 10 years, 20 years, they succeed, right? They start even less than middle class, and then they end up become millionaires, billionaires, whatnot, right? But yours is something unique, which is like from that level to that level in 1 year time. Not financially, but mindset-wise. Yes. Can you elaborate that? That's pretty unique.
Yeah, so I think you can say that when we are put under pressure, right, our back behind the wall, we try to, it's either it will break you down or it will make you successful. So it's again the foundation of how you approach things and how you're able to grind. And being an athlete, I think I stayed there, even though it was very difficult. It took me 3 months to close my first deal. I was in a lot of pressure, because then if I would not be successful there, the only option for me is to go back to the Philippines because I'm a foreigner, right? So I've done all the necessary actions in terms of adding more hours and then learning more, reading books, understanding how the CEO thinks, and all those necessary. So it's like if you relate it to sports, is that you show up even though you're sick. You still attend the training, you still lift the heavy, you still do the heavy lifting and all those things.
Exactly. Right. So during this interaction with these high-level executives, what are the ethical practices, if ever, you practiced? And because somehow, you need to build trust.
Yeah, so just to talk about and touch a little bit on trust, right? Because what I found is that trust is built on surgical reliability. And I call this in my book the protocol number 2, which is reliability ledger, right? And so what you do is you try to eliminate those micro breaches of trust, right? And you try to be as consistent as possible when it comes to consistent in offering the right value, the credibility, and everything around your professional dealings with the CEO. Now, I also developed this thing called sovereign spin, right? In terms of building and staying and shaping influence. So it's basically, it starts with the trust. And then once you gain the trust by being, like I said, being positive and providing the overall value, right? Keeping your words, for example, all these small things. Once you develop the trust, then...
Well, that part I'm interested, actually. Yes. What are those small things that you use to build trust?
So, for example, is if you say, keeping your words is one, for example, right? When you say, I'm gonna do this for you, then you have to make sure no matter what you'll do it. Even it's as simple as, I'm gonna send you an email tomorrow by noon. No matter what, you have to do that. And then constantly, if you're saving their time, because currency is very, very important, right, to the CEO. So every time you reach out, every time you try to communicate, you condense that and you try to provide that, you package your value proposition and saving their time, right? So all those small things that you do on a daily basis. And if you are, let's say, reaching out to them and you're just wasting their time, then your sort of value will keep diminishing, right?
Nice.
Yeah. So because once you develop the trust, then you'll have access. And this is the sovereign spin. Once you have the access, then you'll have insights. And when you have the insights, then you have precision decision based on the insight. And once you have that precision decision, then you'll have a better outcome or elite outcome. When you have the elite outcome, then it will go back to building more trust. And then it will just keep circling inside. Right?
I see. Now you built your network, but then you decide to leave to Dubai. That kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, well, Singapore is obviously it's a high velocity market. There's still a lot of things happening there. But at the same time, I want to try something different. It's pretty much the exact opposite of how you do business, which is the value first in the Asian country and Western country versus the high context or relationship first, right? Because over here in the UAE, relationship is currency. Now, I also want to try the system or operational standard that I have engineered in Singapore and try it here, because I know it's a repeatable operating standard. And when I first moved here last year, I was still the president of of an ATS company called Talent Recruit, a very, very good AI ATS company. So I did a handover to them, and I left the company, I think, sometime last year in August. And after that, I was just chilling until November of last year. And I attended one event in Dubai, which is the Tech Tuesday, headed by Mohammed Siam and also Gordon and Irina. I attended that in November, and I kid you not, going back to what you said about networking, after only 3 weeks, I have hundreds of connections. I was connected to high-level people, which I didn't know that I was entering a high-level connections, and I was literally gravitated towards that direction without even me knowing it, because it's already in my second nature, right? So yeah, to answer your question, I have proven tested what I am sharing in my book. I've tested it many times in many countries, and you can even ask the people that are, or friends that knows me, and they always say, how did you get to be connected with that person, or how did you get inside that room, right? And I always say, well, I'm just lucky sometimes.
I see. Interesting. So your book is basically about techniques to reach high-level people and build.
Yeah, so it's about access, building relationships, and how you to stay there, shaping influence. Mm-hmm. So it's a step-by-step process. And contrary to, what most people would say, it's not. It's very you can't just enter the room just like that. Well, they are correct, because you have to engineer it. You have to understand the process. Similar to when you go to, let's say, the gym, or we were talking about fasting earlier. Mm-hmm. You cannot be eating 3 times a day. The next day you wake up and you're not gonna eat. Then your body will suffer. You'll be dizzy. So if you want to learn this technique and process, then you have to go through from the basic, understanding first how it works, how to get their access. Once you're inside that access, then you have to understand, how can they trust me? There's a thing called value drop, right? Or zero ask, meaning if we just recently connected, if I find something that is relevant to you, I'll send it to you and just say, hey, this could be relevant to you. No need to reply. Something like that. So you keep adding that value, so the person will remember you. Even as simple as, I'll remember your birthday, and on your birthday, you can greet the person. So it's very interesting, because when I first set up my startup in Singapore, right? The people who helped me and even sit on our advisory board for free, and these are high-level people, right? So we're talking about former ambassador to the US of Indonesia, for example, high-level people. They sit on the board for free. It's because of my relationship with them.
How did ethical practices help you to build these relationships?
Well, good question about ethical, because finally we're moving away from that dodgy initial conversation. So I think the operating standard of a person who wants to operate at this level is basically the underlying word would be ethical. Because if you're not ethical in doing business with the high-level people, you will be exposed. And especially, and most importantly, let's say in UAE, I'll give you an example. So in Western or Asian countries, the way you do business is you have an idea, you pitch the idea, you prove your traction, and then you'll develop the relationship after that, right? You'll get funded. But in the UAE, it's the other way around. Meaning over here, you first need to build that relationship, and then you look at alignments, and then you see what you can do together. Then you structure it before you can even execute, right? So both of these, it requires what? Being ethical. Because then, if not, it will collapse. Because along the way, it's still built on trust, right?
Good example. I like that. So now, dealing with these executives, right? It's a high stakes environment. One mistake, you may lose them as a client. As you said, one mistake. I mean, basically what I'm trying to ask is, tell us about a situation where you had to choose between telling the truth and paying the price for it, which may include losing your client, or just lying and avoiding a problem for a short time, maybe. If you get lucky, maybe for good, but then taking the risk of, having a bigger problem at the end. So can you share with us an incident like that?
Okay, so I probably think of one incident that happened when I was working in that events company, right? So we have a CRM, and it's basically listed all the names of the CEOs that you are not allowed to call, because they are very, very unhappy, and you will not go anywhere. But like I said, I'm always creative in terms of how I approach things, right? So one day I look at all the names, and then I pick one, and I said, I want to call this guy and then see. And so I dialed in, the guy said, and come in with the usual, hi, this is Jason Lopez. And then I lied. I said, I'm the president of this company in Asia. And immediately he said, I told you guys not to call me anymore. But I said, I'm here calling you to apologize. And I already told everyone not to call you. And I'm here just to tell you that I'm sorry. Because again, you already know the problem. So I listened. And the guy was telling me all the bad things. And then I told him, I promise you from here on, no one is going to bother you. I'm the only person who will be calling you. By the way, we're having an event in Australia. To show good faith, I'm inviting you for free. But actually, to go there is free anyway, right? So the CEO showed up. I introduced the CEO to some of the participants, which are the CFOs and high-level people there. And all my colleagues, when they saw him, they were all surprised. What is this guy doing here? Why is he? Who invited him, right? And at the end of it, after a couple of weeks, the guy actually signed up and joined the event. And this is the most notorious guy that the entire team members are saying no calls, right? There's a big, no calls. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's when I sort of try to not follow that ethical standard of I did a white lie. But then once that's been corrected, if that's the right term to use, then you go back to your ethical way of dealing business, because you're now thinking about long term, right? If I'm only thinking about short term, then it's one time. But as an entrepreneur, as a professional, if you're looking to either stay within the circle or build a lasting business, then you need to be ethical, and there's no compromise to it.
True. So lastly, if you can share with us any ethical practices you had that paid off for you. Okay. So I understand your white lies kind of paid off for you. We got that part, Jason. We got that part. Okay. So do you have any similar or any example like that where being truthful paid off for you in the long term?
Oh yes, 100%. And I think Especially when I was running an ATS company when I was in Singapore, right? And our system is designed for recruitment agencies or headhunters. So meaning if any corporate will reach out to us, then it will not be designed for them. It's a different type of system, right? And then a number of times that my sales team will ask me to join a call with a prospect, and they say they're very interested. I'll sit in, and then I'll know right away that this is not good for them, right? So before we go any further, I will tell them right away, I just want to let you know this is not designed for you. However, we can make it work, but this is what we're gonna do. If you still like it, we will continue, right? And I think I closed about 4 or 5 deals by doing that, because they said, we'd rather work with you because we trust you, right? Rather than working with a company that didn't tell us that some of the problems. And we worked with them for many years. It's because it started in the right footing, right? Then started with trust.
Right.
So one thing I can probably advise to the junior sales people or any sales people out there, right? If you're looking for a short-term gain, then try not to be honest, because that's the easiest way to be exposed and end that relationship, right? But if you are looking for long-term gain, long-term relationships that will last for 10 years, 20 years, even when I was doing recruitments, I'm always a big advocate of doing the right thing, right? Is you need to make sure that you're honest, you're trustworthy, and you work within that ethical boundaries, right? It should be maybe in another 3 to 6 months from now. And I think the difference is like what you rightfully say, right? Most of the books that actually out there at the moment, it answers or it will tell you why, or based on theory, right? Which doesn't help sometimes, because as a coach also, after I explain the why, I focus mostly on how, because that's what makes someone a good player, right? So on my book, I talked about lots about my direct experiences and how I engineered the process step by step. And there's a checklist of everything, an audit of everything, and how you can attract your relationship. And then if you are, let's say, not performing at that particular level, then you go back up. And so I think I'm very happy to share what I have gone through my direct experiences and the corporate life.
Very nice. I think it's going to be a very useful book for a lot of people, and I'm personally interested in reading your book myself. So, and I hope actually we can have another session with you once your book is out, so you can give us more insight about your book.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining and coming here. Thanks for your time. It's been a great pleasure to host you today. We learned a lot. It's been pretty insightful session. Thanks for sharing with us all those very valuable information.